commuters calling for shorter waiting times and more space on the bus and train would be heartened to know that increasing the public transport capacity is high on the priority list of new Transport Minister Lui Tuck Yew.
One thing that's high on the to-do list, very, very high, is to find ways to add capacity, significant capacity to the transport system. We need to add significant capacity into the bus network. Right? If left to the operators alone, I think they would take a relatively cautious and gradual process of doing so. So it is necessary for the government to work together with the operators so that we can inject this capacity in a very timely fashion, and particularly over the next 3 to 4 years before we see the materialization of the Downtown Lines 2, 3 and future projects.
Mr. Lui was speaking at the launch of the Downtown Line 2 tunnelling works at Beauty World Station, where 2 tunnel boring machines named Athena and Artemis were unveiled. The Downtown Line 2 is part of the government's rail expansion plan, where $60 billion has been committed to doubling Singapore's existing rail network to 280 kilometers by 2020. Speaking to the media after the event, Mr. Lui said that the government would have to work with bus operators to increase capacity.
We leave it very much to the operators to add capacity to the overall system. And we are mindful that sometimes it may not be at the speed necessary given the bottlenecks that we face in the transportation network. My view is that if you compare, for example, aviation and maritime, we tend to add capacity ahead of demand. My view is that probably for land transportation, trains, buses, we probably are adding capacity not ahead of demand, maybe not even in tandem with demand. With the former, there is associated holding and opportunity cost, but with the latter, if you don't meet the demand, there is a certain social cost associated with it. So we ought to be able to do better in this regard. And I think the way to do it is for the government to work more closely with the operators.
Mr. Lui also addressed the need for more information to be made available to commuters waiting for their buses.
The second thing that I think we really need to do more of is data mining. Okay, data mining that will complement feedback from commuters as well as our own observations on the ground as to where the hotspots are. Right. So data mining, for example, we today already have information on bus arrivals. So we need to be able to look at every route, any time of the day, and to know whether the headway timings are being met. The second area of data mining that we ought to look at in greater detail is information that comes about from the EasyLink cards, so that I know at any point in time how many passengers, how many commuters are on board a bus. So that as a commuter, what I would like to see is I would like to be able to have an application that tells me when the bus is arriving, which we have some of that today, but also to tell me in a very simple, maybe color-coded manner, whether there are seats on the bus, whether there's only standing room on the bus, or whether it is so crowded you are not likely to be able to get on board.
Next up, the Transport Minister gives his assessment of the bus and train service from taking a ride himself.